Hello, and welcome back to the Prancer Elkwood Show. For this episode, I will be reading a book about Muhammad Ali in celebration of Black History Month and as part of my Black History Month series. Now, this book I checked out from the library, and this book what is a definitive biography told by his only brother, Rahaman Ali. I will start with the foreword, the preface, and chapter 1 of the book, Brotherhood. I dedicate this book to my loving brother, Muhammad Ali. He was my best friend, and I'm proud of being his only sibling. I was very fortunate to share his life. I am forever grateful. Muhammad Ali was bold, brash, and courageous. He broke down so many barriers and created so many controversial situations. He was an international figure and a great fighter, a man who always fought against discrimination and always fought for equal rights. Muhammad and I could resonate with each other's attitudes of being Americans and of being outspoken about our equal rights. Muhammad and I became very close friends. We had a lot of fun together, and he was always joking around. I remember one day he said to me, "Come on, let's take a walk in the community." Somewhat bemused, I asked, "Take a walk in the community? Walk? Where? What are, what are we going to do?" And Muhammad said, "We're just going to walk in the community and talk to the people and allow the people to talk to us." So we would go on these walks on a regular basis. Muhammad would make people feel good about themselves. I thought to myself, how many, how many, how many celebrities of his stature would consider just walking among regular people, going around talking to them? This, I felt, was very powerful. One of the most important lessons we both mutually shared was that money is not God, and human dignity is very important. Your integrity is way up there, and as human beings, if, if you carry yourself in a certain way, you can defy all evil that comes at us. Muhammad was able to use the spotlight like nobody else in history. I've known Rahman personally for over 5.5 decades. I don't think there's anyone who is closer to Muhammad than his own brother. I am delighted that Rahman has written the definitive biography on his brother, Muhammad Ali, who is more than merely the most fascinating sporting figure of modern times. He was a lover of human beings, a warrior for the fight against discrimination, and not only did this great heavyweight champion transcend boxing, but he transcended all sports. He was bigger than sports. The Muhammad Ali story is an important part of history, and I can say with great conviction that his legacy will live on for a very long time, hopefully forever. Jim Brown, NFL legend. Preface. To me, my brother was never just a boxer. Muhammad Ali was without doubt the world's most loved sportsman and perhaps one of its most adored humans. At the height of his celebrity, my brother was a famous person in the world, recognized on every continent. As an athlete, my brother transcended his sport, and as a man, he seemed to embody some of our best instincts. When many people picture my brother, they visualize a little heavyweight slipping away from Sonny Liston's sledgehammers, or an older, wiser fighter letting George Foreman exhaust himself with body blows. But right from the start, I quickly came to realize that the sport of boxing was just a platform for Muhammad. He was a chosen one to help unite people in the world through love, peace, and respect. No other human shared a closer bond with Muhammad than me and our parents, of course. I was a near constant fixture in my only sibling's company. I saw Muhammad at both his best and his worst. The relentless prankster and the jealous older brother, the outspoken advocate, and the quiet family man behind closed doors. We grew up together, lived together, trained together, traveled together, socialized with celebrities, rubbed shoulders with presidents, and even fought on the same fight cards. But there's more to my brother's story than the sweet science and his days in the ring. Despite being diagnosed with Parkinson's, my brother never lost his zest for life in his later years. He continued to speak up and represent his religion and the human race as long as he was alive, dedicating his life to charity and helping others. His death in June 2016 caused an almost unprecedented outpouring of praise and emotion. More words have been written about Muhammad than about almost anyone else. Most good, many controversial, and some that seem intent on tarnishing his legacy. And yet, until now, the voice missing from the conversation has been the one belonging to the man who knew him best, me. My brother's stories has been told countless times via the medium of books, magazines, and documentaries, but many accounts only consider the legend and not the man. I want to offer a fresh perspective and paint a portrait of not only the personality that most people already knew, but of the human being that only I knew. A man who struggled with anger, fear, and temptation like any other, but always did his best to make the world a little better every day. Like any other human being, Muhammad had his faults. He once said to me, if you ask any man when he's 50 years old if he would do things differently when he was 20, of course he would. And if he doesn't, then he's wasted 30 years of his life. Muhammad, of course, didn't waste a minute of his own life. Even those years that the government took away from his boxing career, he invested in becoming the magnetic speaker who would one day inspire a new generation. As a young boy, my brother would say, I'm going to be the most famous man in the whole world. We both always knew he'd be successful. I remember him once saying to me in his peak, brother, isn't it wonderful how our dreams came true, how we accomplished all the goals we had as young children? I have so much to tell the world about Muhammad Ali, and this book is my attempt to do it. Chapter 1, Brotherhood. My brother almost killed our mom the day he was born. His head was gigantic as a newborn, far too big to slip out naturally when mom was giving birth to him. The doctors at the General Hospital in Louisville, Kentucky, tried every trick in the book to ensure they delivered my brother into this world without losing him, and it still almost didn't work. In the end, they resorted to using forceps, which caused Muhammad to be born with a lopsided head. Thankfully, our mom's own mother was there to console and help. Grandma reassured Mom that she would take care of her baby and sat with my newborn brother, rubbing his head gently from side to side. Whether this played a role in the beautiful shape it eventually came to be, I can't say, but those forceps left a mark on my brother's right cheek that would stay with him his whole life. Otherwise, as our mom always told us, you could see from the day he was born just how good looking my brother would grow up to be. Those fine features that punches seemed to slip off, and that face that launched 1,000 newscasts, the one that almost everyone in the world would come to know. He was a beautiful boy from the first, and my mom loved him the instant she laid eyes on him. Still, not everyone recognized my big brother so readily. Shortly after the birth, the nurses put the wrong baby in our mother's bed, and Mom, still in a haze from the stress of the delivery, only realized that this wasn't her little baby boy after reading the name tag. Even though she must have been in a panic, our softly spoken mom would have barely raised her voice to say, hey, this isn't my baby. She had a way of taking such indignities quietly, one of many aspects in what she was the opposite of our father. Finally, they brought my brother to her. She told us years later that all the babies in the ward were so quiet you had been hard pressed to hear any of those little souls crying. Except, of course, for my brother who wouldn't stop. He went off like a rocket, already the loudest in the room after less than 24 hours in the world. And of course, he eventually turned on the rest of the babies, and soon they had started screaming too. Only my brother could set the whole ward off. Muhammad was loud from the day he was born. I've thought of my older brother as Muhammad for the last 5.5 decades, but when he came into the world, our parents named him after my father, Cassius Clay Marcellus Sr. He was born on 17 January 1942, and I was born 18 months later. Our father was particularly fond of the Hollywood movie star Rudolph Valentino and decided to name me after him, Rudolph Arnett Clay. To my brother, though, I was always Rudy, and to me and the rest of the family, he was G, after his first words, Gigi, which he used when he needed food, his diaper change, or even just affection. In 1964, I would take the name I would take the name Rahman when he took the name Muhammad, but people in the family still called him G, and do even now. Our father was Cash, and Mom was Bird, inspired by the way she would burst into beautiful laughter when Dad sang for her, or teased her, or told her jokes. Our mother was born Odessa Lee Grady on 12th February 1917. Her father, John Grady, was half white with a black mother and a white Irish father. He had arrived in America in 1877 from a little town called Ennis in Ireland. After making the long, arduous journey across the pond, he met and married a freed slave woman. Blessed with beauty inside and out, our mother had a very soft and gentle demeanor. With a heavy framed body and very light skin, she was easily mistaken for a white woman, even in those days when color was so important to your opportunities in life. Above anything else, you would be hard pressed to see our mother angry or upset. Always cheerful, Mom had a kind of sparkling emanating from her that made her a very affable person. She constantly strove to treat others with dignity and imparted those same values to Muhammad and me as soon as we could speak. We were taught to treat people with kindness, to embrace good manners, and to respect our elders, regardless of their background. Without a shadow of doubt, my brother inherited his sweet and giving nature from our mother. Mom was also a stickler when it came to neatness. She also, sorry, she always kept us dressed sharp and smart, but her standards also extended to her surroundings. In our home, she made sure that we did our chores around the house. We had to make our beds every single day before we stepped out of the house, with the clothes that needed washing picked up from the floor and placed in the washing basket. General cleanliness was expected from every family member, young and old. Still, there was no favoritism. Although Muhammad was the firstborn child, I can honestly say that Mom loved us the same and didn't favor one of us over the other. Our father, in many ways, the opposite of our mother, a talented artist who painted signs in and around the city of Louisville. He once told us that when he first began painting back in the early 1950s, there had been only one other black man painting oil signs in town. Initially, Dad started painting only in the black neighborhoods, but as time went on, as a result of word of mouth, requests for his services from the white communities started to pour in, despite the fact the town was segregated during that period. Even the pictures of Jesus Christ that hung in many other churches in Louisville were painted by Dad. His name was stamped around the town. Muhammad and I were his biggest friends and were always absolutely amazed at his paintings. We would watch him work his magic and just be blown away by his artistic talent. So much I wanted to grow up to be able to paint like him. He would be the inspiration for me to take up the art of painting later in life, even if I don't think I ever quite reached his level. He told my brother, "You should become a lawyer or doctor." But at the end, of course, it was Dad's other talents that Muhammad would end up emulating over the course of his career. Besides his artistic learnings, Dad was a natural actor and loved to sing and dance. He was a showman's spark and he would emulate the stars of the time, practicing his vocals after work in the comfort of our home. Another thing he became known for was his flamboyant dress sense. This neat looking dress, sorry, this neat looking, dark and handsome man would wear his freshly shined shoes, tight pants, and crisp laundered shirts and hit the jazz clubs where he would dance until the early hours of the morning. He had this way of speaking very fast, as if he was in a rush to get his words out. "Cassius, slow your words down, because I hardly understand what you are saying," Mom would say to him, perhaps not appreciating that hearing our father rattle off words at 100 miles a minute would one day stand my brother's career in such good stead. Muhammad and I always thought our father could pursue a career in showbiz, but he told us that the racial barrier kept him from making a success because opportunities for blacks didn't exist at the time. And I'll stop there for now. So for the next episode on the Prancer Elkwood Show, I will continue reading the chapter My Brotherhood. Until then, I'm King Prancer Elkwood, and have a blessed evening.